With so much eager and anticipation and unanswered questions about the USL Premier that, according to our current knowledge, is set to launch in 2028, but there hasn't been any press conferences or thorough updates or dense amounts of information provided. So we are going to kind of do the work and see, at the very least, what teams and cities might be eligible for this first year of the competing first division of American club soccer.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of parameters because there's cities that have waved the flag that they want to be in it. But like a lot of things in American soccer, there's a whole lot of caveats and asterisks to this list.
So let's frame this up. Number one, in terms of the update, do you know where Tony Scholes is, Robert? I don't know where Tony Scholes is.
Where in the world is Mr. Tony Scholes?
Haven't heard from Tony Scholes. He's the guy that was hired out of England to be the architect, the lead, the chief boss guy.
The mastermind of ProRel.
Of the premier of the premier.
Yes,
does that work?
I like that. Yeah.
He was supposed to be the guy. We have not heard from him. The story was back in December when all of this came out from USL was that he was going to take over when the Premier League season was over, because that's what he was doing. He was doing Premier League stuff over there in England. We have not heard from him. Maybe he's still on vacation. Maybe he was watching the World Cup like everybody else, and he hasn't come back yet. Maybe he's hanging out with Lionel Messi somewhere on the beach. I don't know. But we haven't heard from him. So that's the update. We don't know what's going on with USL Premier, and USL is not giving us updates. Now, remember, they've gone through some changes over there at the USL. Private equity money has come into the picture. They said no thank you to Justin Papadakis and what he was doing and moved him on. So there are lots of questions. Now, Ewan, who is an ultra, be like Ewan, says that 8 teams are actively working to be eligible for US Premier by 2028. That's good. That's good. We know that. Okay. And again, here's the other part of the framing that's important, Robin. You and I were talking this out because you got to wrap your head around this. U.S. soccer has professional league standards. Now, and I know Riverside Grove is here and some other people. People don't like the professional league standards, or they will declare the professional league standards ridiculous because they were designed to protect MLS. That is absolutely a criticism of the standards you can lay on the table, and we will let it sit there, but we cannot address that today. We have to go with what we know, which is that U.S. soccer has professional league standards, and until proven otherwise, we have to assume that the teams have to meet the standards, or at least a good amount of teams have to meet the standards so that the number of waivers that USL gets isn't so ridiculous that there might as well not be standards, right? Because if you have 100 waivers,
there has to be a bar at some point.
Has to be a bar, Tim. So we are only going on what we know at this point, right? The best knowledge that we have. I will bring up the professional league standards for you just to kind of frame them up. The league must have a minimum of 12 teams to apply for a Division I men's outdoor league, which is what USL Premier wants to be. By year 3, they'll have to have 14 teams. So 2 expansion teams by year 3. U.S.-based teams must play in U.S. soccer CONCACAF competitions. We'll leave that one aside. That's kind of not material to what we're doing today, although I know it is a sticking point for some people because of MLS and the Open Cup. Here are the stadium requirements. Stadia. You know it's fancy when it says stadia, not stadiums. U.S.-based.
Hey, what is the qualifying there? Where's the English language expert here? How do you separate those two?
And also, I'm seeing people talk about the ownership stake percentage that has changed. Yes, that has changed. We'll get to that. U.S.-based teams must be located in the at least the Eastern, Central, and Pacific time zones in the continental United States. Because why, Rob? It says it right there. Because why? Because that's where all the people live, basically, right? Because as much as I love the mountain time zone, and that is the ancestral lands of the Davises and my mom's family, the Bradleys, Coloradan people, there aren't a lot of big cities in the mountain time zone. Not as many as there are in the East, the Midwest, and obviously out west on the coast. So that's a time zone requirement. Is it ridiculous? Maybe, but it's still there. At least 75% of the league's teams must play in a metropolitan market of at least 1 million persons. Now, we have to kind of, we have to go with the best guess here because different groups define metropolitan markets differently. Like, for example, Rob, I live in the Washington, D.C. area. Mm-hmm. Is Baltimore part of the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area? Yes or no?
Yes.
It depends on who you ask, okay? It depends on who you ask. Yes, no, maybe. All right, no, we're going to go with our best guess there. Common sense might prevail. League stadiums must meet the following parameters, and this is the big one, right? This is infrastructure, this is spending, this is all those things. All stadiums, arenas must be enclosed, so you can't have an open end and people can just walk in and do whatever. Obviously, that's ticketing and all kinds of stuff. Security. All league stadiums must have a minimum seating capacity of 15,000. Okay.
What is the big thing that people like to point out about other more established leagues and their standards being a lot less than that?
Yes, right. A lot less than that. So, there are lots of leagues over in Europe and even first division leagues where they don't have 15,000. This is the way the PLS is written. We are, again, not arguing whether it's right or wrong. We are just going with what they have on paper. And then there's also, you have to have a lease. You can't be messing around and not have a lease. Okay. That's the stadium. 15,000 is the number. There's a financial viability section of this. This is what was referenced in the chat by somebody about the percentage of ownership. This is talking about financial. This is actually the league's financial viability here in this section. And then we get to the team ownership financial viability elements, which has been changed. It is now 15% of the team has to be owned by a principal owner who has a net worth of at least 40 million US dollars. Then that net worth cannot include, as mine does, the equity in my house or the value of the club you own. That's kind of that's like if I buy a club, then that's part of my value and now I meet the standard. No, you can't do that. That's cheating. Together, everybody must have at least $70 million of net worth to their name. Everybody, the principal owner at 40, and then everybody else who makes up the rest of the ownership group. And then there's stuff in there about audits and things like that, but that's not really pertinent to what we're doing. So,
that's a lot of caveats. It's like that's a whole lot of things to keep in mind here. And then as we're gonna kind of go through the championship and see who might be eligible. We saw 8 teams commented that are making some viable pitches for this, but there's potential teams coming in and there's proposed stadiums coming in, but kind of frame it as the current teams playing in the USL's, the American Second Division. And with all those PLS requirements and all the moving parts of stadium and team launches, we'll go with the teams that we know and exist. So we'll go in alphabetical order here.
Okay, well, we really
don't mind us jumping in, but do you need to add more caveats?
No. I just want to say that these are as you said, these are the second division teams right now. These are USL Championship teams with Atletico Dallas. Atletico Dallas coming in next year, right? So that's the one expansion team that is coming in quickly. There are other teams on the list that are still working out their plan. We're not including USL League One teams, mostly because you probably wouldn't be in League One if you had ambitions of being a first division team. So go.
Even though there's some teams in USL League One that potentially could earn their way up the pro rel field. But to get us started, are they eligible to become a USL Premier League team? Birmingham Legion.
So what do we know about Birmingham? Okay, what's this?
They got a big stadium. We know that.
The ML. Okay, they have a big stadium. That they do not have a problem meeting the stadium requirement. They play in an American football stadium. Check. Right. That's and again, I think that's the hardest one to meet. I mean, obviously, you can't do anything about your metropolitan statistical area population. That's there will be some places that need waivers on that. Okay. According to what I see here, Birmingham has 1.1 million people. So we can also check off the metropolitan statistical area population requirement. All right, so 1 million people, a football stadium, so plenty of seats available. Again, they don't feel like a first division city to me or first division team, Rob. But when you are trying to meet these standards, as ridiculous and prejudicial as they are, problematic and prejudicial as they are, if you're trying to meet them, then Birmingham probably gets on the list, right?
I would say so. They're one of, I think, only 4 teams that meet current capacity requirements as of now. But
we don't know if they've got an owner with $40 million of net worth. That I don't know off the top of my head. And maybe, they have a long list of owners because a lot of these teams are in that
Mm.
kind of they're made up of a bunch of people, usually locals, who have gotten together. So I don't know the net worth of Jack Bryant or Nilinho Kolesko or John Harbert or Jeff Logan or James Outlet. And some of this stuff will be public and some of it won't. So it's going to be tough. But okay, move on.
They're already new. They're in their first season in the USL Championship. But next up on the list, Brooklyn FC. They play in a baseball stadium. They have a capacity of about 7,000. And I'm not sure if they have a looming 40 millionaire in their
They are
envelope.
owned by North Sixth Group. And we talked about this when they launched. North Sixth Group is a family office holding company. So again, that's this is maybe a little bit beyond us in terms of the financials here, right? That's an investment management group. Do they meet the requirement? Honestly, I don't know. Probably, maybe shouldn't. Look, Brooklyn's metropolitan area that is absolutely fine, 100% checks the box. Everybody knows that. Stadium is a problem. 7,000 seats in a minor league baseball stadium does not a first division soccer team make. And you might say 15,000 is too many, but give me like a soccer stadium with at least 10,000 seats, please. Like, I think that's pretty reasonable.
10.
So yeah, I don't think Brooklyn would need a waiver for their stadium, and that's a significant one. Moving on.
All right, moving on to Charleston Battery. Coming in, they play at Patriots Point Soccer Complex, capacity of 3,900.
Yeah, and Charleston Battery, obviously a historically important team in American soccer. They go back a ways. So we don't have a lot of teams that have been continuously operating since 1993, as has the Charleston Battery. Charleston, what's the metropolitan area population of Charleston, South Carolina? I don't think a million. I think it's probably less than a million. I know Charleston's a lovely place and people like to go and they have food and they're right there on the coast and it's beautiful. And I don't think that's the case. And obviously Patriots Point does not meet the standard. Now, some of these
metro area of 800,000, it says.
800,000. Maybe we get a waiver. It's only 200,000 people. What's 200,000 people between friends, Rob? What is it?
Just give me 200,000 more people and we'll be good.
And again, maybe if you extend just a little bit further out, you're like, okay, we get to a million. And again, I'm not saying that Charleston shouldn't get a waiver for that. Probably should. So can you get to 15,000 seats? Man, that seems like a tough lift, right? And again,
you wouldn't call them an easy shoe-in. So I think for the sake of timeliness with how many teams we got, it doesn't seem like they're an automatic yes, even though they're a storied team, like you said, operating for quite some time. According to these PLS, it doesn't seem like they're a shoe-in, right?
They played at they had like the first soccer-specific stadium in America, but it was only 50-something hundred people, like just over 5,000 people, that stadium. So, they've been in a couple of different stadiums now. In both cases, they've struggled to, they're not struggled, but they haven't grown to a place of like, let's get 10, 15,000 in. All right. And Jack's got a point. Why require 15,000 when a team can't draw 5K? Well, if a team can't draw 5K, they're not a first division team. I'm sorry. Like, I'm not going to extend grace to a club. Like, oh, you only get 4,000. You want to be first division? No, you're in a big market. Then do better, right? Just do better. Again,
I'll counter that with the point of the pro-rel argument and having Premier is having the most elite teams on the field, right? It's not necessarily if we're basing it on the teams themselves and having a little bit of modesty. So like you're saying, standards and otherwise in more established leagues, there's teams operating and filling small venues that are in those top leagues. Shouldn't there be a little bit of modesty? Like, the amount of seats doesn't equal Premier. Isn't it at play on the field that we want to qualify for the top tier?
But okay, but what's wrong? Okay,
what do you have, like the sickest 5K stadium that you filled to the rafters and your team's sick on the field? That seems like a Premier worthy sort of thing.
No, but why do you need a first division for that team to play in? Why is that team a first division team if that's their limit?
But that's the point of the pro-rel thing, right? Is to, I guess I'm getting pro-rel and initial Premier teams mixed up.
But I think, well, again, we're trying to be fairly specific here. And again, just because of what we know, there are lots of things we don't know and lots of things we can dream into existence. But what we know is that on paper right now, there is a PLS. and USL is going to apply for first division sanctioning for their league. And again, like, there have to be standards. So you're saying you want to, so you're doing case by case in that case, Rob. You're like, oh, that team's real sick and they got 5,000 and they fill it up every week. They let them into Premier. And it's like, but you have to have a standard for everyone to meet. You can't be bouncing around going, well, that team seems like Premier. Let them in, because 3 years later, what happens if they crash and burn, right? And I don't know. I mean,
but I think case by case is good with some parameters put in place. Like if they have financially viable and the way that they got their business model for a small capacity side, I think
I would also
right.
say for anybody who like, what I would also say is that there's already a first division soccer league in America. If there wasn't one at all, this might be a different thing for U.S. soccer to consider. And again, we are being agnostic about how MLS has been treated by U.S. soccer for the moment. I understand all the arguments. You can bring them all here. I know they're going to happen in the chat. But for the moment, there's an MLS. The MLS exists. That's a first division league. And they have set a standard. And so why would U.S. soccer extend? Again, U.S. soccer can change the standards any way they want to, I suppose, although there has to be ratification of it. We've gotten distracted. Rob,
we've gotten distracted. We're going to try to just at least get through the Eastern Conference teams with this. Maybe there's a part 2 on Monday for the West. But all right. So we haven't talked about this team very much, but they have a beautiful soccer-specific stadium, Colorado Springs Switchbacks. Capacity of Widener Field is 8K with the information I'm looking at. Beautiful facility. They achieve on the field, but waivers obviously would be needed.
Well, I think that is a stadium, because they own it and because they built it, that you can imagine they would find a way. And they could have a plan, right? And if you're talking about waivers, you can't give waivers forever. So in the case of a place like Colorado Springs, which has turned itself into a vibrant soccer market, doesn't meet the 1 million person population requirement, the metropolitan area of Colorado Springs, right? It doesn't. So you would have a waiver for that. I think you would have to have, we're going to expand this stadium to fit. And again, maybe they change the standard, but for the moment, 15,000. We're going to expand it to get to 15,000, right? This is what other clubs have had to do. Detroit went from, hey, we're going to have 12,000. Oh, wait, hold on. No, we're going to have 15,000, right? Because we know that we need to get to that number to meet the standard. You want to clang the clanger real quick for our guy?
Sure, why not? That'd be fun. I'm glad it's clang worthy.
I'll let Jenny hit the clanger.
Hey, welcome aboard. And all those who accepted gift memberships at the beginning.
I would say that Colorado Springs, again, needs a waiver, could have a plan to expand their stadium. I think they're a strong candidate, Rob.
Yeah, indeed. So are we going to put them in our yes category alongside Birmingham Legion for eligible?
Yeah, I think right now, as we work our way through this, and maybe part 2 is on Monday when we get to the West, I think you have to put them in the very strong candidate, and then if we don't get to 12, well, then they might have to move in, right? And then you're asking for a waiver.
All right. Okay, fair enough. Detroit City FC building a stadium. You just referenced that their new stadium plans got bumped up to 15K. So and they just announced they broke ground on Alumnify Field with a capacity of 15K, set to open on 2028, the same as USL Premier. So do you think DCFC is a
100%.
debut Premier team?
Yeah. I mean, look, the stadium is under construction and it's going to take a while. And what's the delivery date on the stadium, Rob?
28,
which, fits, right? Right now, obviously they have a stadium problem, and they wouldn't even wait, but you're not doing that. You're planning for 28. So 100% check off Detroit City and move on.
Easy yes on the list. El Paso Locomotive, storied team, been making headlines with some celebrity players. They play in a baseball stadium out there. What do we think? Is El Paso Locomotive, one of those we're penciling into this USL Premier?
That one's tough. Anybody who plays in a minor league baseball venue with no clear plan to build or to take over and add seats and retrofit, that one is really tough. I like El Paso Locomotive. They've been a good part of the USL Championship. I don't think you can put them in the yes category right now, Rob. I think you kind of have to put them on the outside looking in for the moment. Again, if we're going by those PLS.
Moving right along, Hartford Athletic, yes or no, USL Premier team?
By the way, El Paso metropolitan area, something like I think they might be close. They're a million in this. Well, a million. Excuse me, in the CSA, which is the combined statistical area. So again, I guess it depends on how you look at it. Who was the one you just went to?
Hartford Athletic.
Hartford is going to meet the population requirement, I think. They haven't been good mostly on the field. I think they've had, maybe had
Blips
some
and blops.
Yeah, here and there. Stadium wise, what are they doing, Rob? They've got Trinity Health Stadium, which is 5,500 seats. One of those bleacher buildings that we find in lower division soccer. It looks like they could add some seats on the end, just like anybody else. I don't know if that's enough to get to 15,000. I think they might, if they were applying, they might have to come up with that plan. Hey, and we're going to add a bunch of seats and we're going to get to 15,000 because we want to be in Division One. So I think Hartford has to be a strong candidate.
All right, so Hartford in the maybe category, but moving along, we're looking for some more certain. There's a lot of teams that are maybes with if this, and this happens, but Indy 11, in or out? They've got a whole stadium saga, but it seems like they could be in here.
Oh man, Indy 11 is such a microcosm of American soccer. The story of that team, the story of the city, like angling for MLS, sort of behind the backs of the lower division team ownership, and the way that all felt like a real estate play by a developer who was the owner of the club. They've got a list of people that are involved. I don't know. Again, does Ozdemir meet the requirement for ownership, net worth, and that stuff? Their stadium right now, I think it can get to 12. I don't know if that's for soccer or just for concerts and the like. I feel like Indy has to be in your list. Again, you might be asking for a waiver and you might have to have a plan, but I think Indy has to be on your list, Rob.
Indy's on the list, so we're at 4.
What do you think? What Matthew is saying the Indy 11's a hard no, but is that a club
but he's
thing?
a Michigander. He's anti-Indy 11.
Oh, then I realized Matthew was a Michigander. All right.
But if they get the right home, I don't see why not. Big city. There's some definitely like a hunger for there. If they get the situation right, I think Indy 11 could be a hit for USL Premier. Moving along, Las Vegas Lights, who it just seems crazy that they are in the Eastern Conference, just looking at it like this. But Las Vegas Lights, are they a Premier team?
Yeah, just because it's coming up in the chat, El Paso Locomotive, they have some idea of pursuing a stadium. We don't know if that'll ever happen. Obviously, Indy 11, that still remains out there as a thing. Las Vegas Lights, again, it's a stadium situation because they check so many boxes. It's a major market. It's way more than 1 million people in the metropolitan area. They have the potential to be big. You also have to, I don't think this should be a factor if we're just talking about Las Vegas and their resume for this, Rob, but MLS is eyeing Vegas as well, right? And there could be a relocation there, which I don't know. I don't know how we rate Vegas. I think they probably have to be on your provisional list, but again, it's a stadium. Cashman does not seat. It's a minor league baseball stadium. It does not seat 15.
No.
Right? No. By the way, this graphic. Everybody's talking about the graphic. It definitely is alphabetical. We're not doing east-west. We're just doing alphabetical. So if we confused everybody with that,
we're in the alphabetical version of the East right now.
We're not doing the East. You just brought up Vegas.
Oh yeah, you're right. My apologies. Yeah, forgive me.
El Paso,
I'm not wearing my glasses. All right, moving along from my bad. I was wondering why Las Vegas was like East. What's going on?
No, we're doing
Lexington.
Okay. Lexington, man, Lexington would never. Again, this is not about whether they could earn their way into the top division. This is not what this is about. Obviously, once you institute Pro Rel, once you get your Premier League your Premier Division off the ground, you may still need to figure out how U.S. Soccer is going to adjudicate waivers and such when teams are moving between divisions. But if we're just talking about populating a top division that meets the PLS right now, I don't know how you can put Lexington in that group, Rob. I mean, it's the fact
So
that
is this a shower versus grower conversation? Lexington is going to have to be a shower to like move their way up and not necessarily be a
I'm
first year.
pretty sure Lexington doesn't meet the population requirement if you're being held fast to that. So that's one waiver. They built their own stadium, and I suppose it's expandable at some point, right? But it seats 7,500 right now. So you're talking about doubling the capacity of the stadium. Maybe, maybe, I
Well,
guess.
again, it's if only there was a press conference to explain what
You're going to
waivers
have,
were.
look, Riverside Grove, you're going to have to stop. We have outlined what this conversation is. You're going to have to stop. Okay. Like, it's enough. I get it. This is your hobby horse. I understand. You're frustrated by the lack of sporting merit. That's not a thing right now in American soccer. It's not. We want it to be. Maybe it will be. Sure. It should be. Come on. Like, we're trying to do a thing here. You're pissing me off. I'm sorry. You're pissing me off. Like, just acknowledge what this is and go with us until we get to that place of, okay, again, pro rel should be part of the picture. That's not what this is about. All right, go ahead, Rob, because I know you got.
Well, I guess we'll hold the phone on that for 3 to 17 years. Loudon up next. Is that a quick yes or no?
Loudon's a no because of the club. I think Loudon. So the stadium does not meet the requirement for sure at the moment. Could they do something to the stadium and meet the requirement and avoid a waiver? I guess they could, but it's out there. It's an exurb of DC. I guess technically that means they meet the population requirement, Rob. Again, what we're not also accounting for here, and look, I think you're going to hit all 3 time zones, so that's really not, I guess that's really not an issue. And 75% of the teams are going to be in those 3 time zones just by the fall of the clubs and where they are geographically. But you tell me what you think of Loudon.
I would just say from the size and from the ambition and whatnot have shown, I feel like from that very much an outsider perspective, it always seems like Loudon is just like kind of hanging on in general.
Well, they're the club that, Pablo Maurer wrote a whole piece about how crappy they were being
that's
run.
the most I've dug into Loudon was when we had Pablo on, and it seemed like shoestring sort of an effort. So even if they did meet some PLS things, I don't have a lot of faith in my heart of hearts that they're trying to go big with their layout for their team and put a lot more resources into them.
I also acknowledge that I was saying that if you don't draw a 5K, why are we talking about you as first division? Again, if there was a system where you could win your way into the top division and you draw 5K, we'll talk about waivers then, right? Like that should absolutely, it shouldn't be, well, you only draw 5K and you won the second division and we have a pro rel system. Well, then I guess you can't be in the first division. That's not a pro rel system, right? They're going to have to be allowances. So again, we're doing this now because this is what we know. This is all we can be assured of. Once we get to this place of the league is operating and there's pro rel and Tony Scholes shows up and we actually find out where he is, well then we will address, how you would deal with the fact that a club might win the third division or win the second division rather, and want to be promoted and doesn't quote unquote meet the standards. That absolutely is something U.S. Soccer and USL are going to have to deal with. And I don't think you can just eliminate a team because they only draw 5K. But there's this mention of, well, Loudon, how many fans do they draw? Not many, right? We haven't gotten to Miami. How many fans does Miami draw? They meet the standard for stadium size and market size. But do they meet this? Do they draw at all? No. But that's, again, I think if you're USL and you're trying to meet the standards, you can't just be like, well, our teams that draw the best should be our first division teams. Give us, I mean, again, you can present that to U.S. Soccer, and it's up to U.S. Soccer at that point. But they would have to scrap PLS. They would have to say PLS are out the window, at least in terms of the stadium size and the metropolitan area size.
Next up, we have the easiest team on this list for a yes or no. Louisville City, are they a USL Premier team for 2028?
Yeah, I think so. They have to be on that list. They're a model franchise. And it's not just about the franchise, obviously, the stadium that they built. I don't know if Louisville is 1 million people. I would guess it's probably pretty close to that, somewhere in that area. Again, following the checklist, I think Louisville, as long as the metropolitan area thing doesn't require a waiver, is 100%. If they do require a waiver, you ask for a waiver because Louisville should be in the first division.
All right, final team of part one of our USL Premier check-in. FC Tulsa, last year's finalist. Are they a first-year USL Premier team?
Ooh, man. I don't think they can be on the application. No offense to our guy Tulsa Mario, but I mean, again, you got a stadium issue for Tulsa that requires a waiver. So I see that Louisville's 1.3 million, no waiver required there in terms of the population size. In terms of Tulsa, I think it's a lot closer to that. Like the coming in underneath. Metro says 1 million people in Tulsa. All right, maybe you don't need one then. So Tulsa, if they can figure out their stadium, maybe is one. But Tulsa Mara is saying not until the stadium is announced. So yeah, the stadium is a big lift for a lot of these teams.
All right, so through the first half of the alphabetical rundown of the USL Championship, we've got about four teams outlined. So we will come back on Monday and revisit this with part two. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for your input.